Just say there is one. Talk to me if you want.
I'll send it over to you.
Saturday.
Because I don't really know
Okay,
the
sure.
details. Alrighty.
Thank you.
So, good to see you all here today. Welcome to Raisable Faith. In the way of announcements, so next week on Tuesday at probably 5:45 p.m. If that time changes, we will send it out in the Discord. If it doesn't change, we will also be sending out announcements in the Discord. But around that time, we are planning on actually applying what we have been learning with Eric Hernandez's talks last week and this week, and actually going out and practicing evangelizing. So,
What time is it?
5:45,
Okay.
and we're going to be meeting in the plane to start.
By the fountains over there, by the student union?
By the student union. So yeah, so that will be happening next week, and then we'll have our meeting after that at the normal time. Normal time, not normal room. Next week's meeting is going to be in the Sciences Building, Sci 3.250, I believe. It will be in the announcement, and that will be where we are for the 2 weeks, March 3rd and March 10th. And then spring break, and then we'll be back in this room after spring break. And then, lastly, we will also be having pancakes and pontification, not this weekend because it's still technically February, but next weekend, March, I guess that would be 7th. So, but
Yes.
yeah, March 7th. But this weekend, I believe there is something happening that.
Yeah, just to mention briefly, so there is a conference at Park Cities Baptist Church sponsored by the Discovery Institute. It's an annual conference on science and faith. There's some pretty big name folks coming into town for that. So let me know if you want more info, or you can find it by Googling as well. And also they have a summer seminar program through the Discovery Institute if anyone's interested in that. They generally, I think, will pay your way in Colorado, give you a lot of training. There's like a C.S. Lewis track and a very science-oriented track. And it's a really great program. Maybe hard to get accepted sometimes, but it's really good. So pursue that if interested.
Alrighty. So, in that case, I will hand it over to our speaker, Eric Hernandez.
All right, Eric.
Who needs a tactical tool handout that lists all the tools? Anybody need one? I was not here last week. Didn't have that one. Y'all have that? So that's not what I gave you today. That's what I gave you last week.
Yeah. Okay.
Who does not have what I gave you last week?
With us?
I actually be surprised if you do have it with
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
with us, no.
Are you sure it's not the same thing?
Not the same thing. No, sir. Here, would you hand that out for me, please?
Yeah.
So everybody gets a minus 30 points. Okay.
I have it in digital format.
I like that. So where did we leave off last time? Would y'all remind me?
We were, I think it was we were all trying to answer all religions are basically the same and the Bible is just a book of life.
Okay, so we only did the first one.
Yes.
Okay, so the Let's Practice, this is something I pulled from my workbook that I'm in the process of, well, it's kind of on the back burner for right now, but we're going to go through each tool. So we only did the first tool then. Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So the second, and as I mentioned, I want to do more hands-on stuff. So I'm just going to kind of run through this, and most of you have heard me talk about this before. Reword the position to expose a problem. Where's the? Oh, it's being handed out. So the second one is where's a list of the tools? Did you have any extra?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. So the second one, someone read that off for me, those bullet points, including the other stuff.
The tactical tools, correct?
Yeah, number 2.
Reword the position to expose the problem. This first helps us ensure that we have not misunderstood their position. Then as a response, this can be done in at least 2 ways. Reword a person's position to expose the hidden problems with the claim. This can remove the fluff and serve as an implicit rebuttal. Reword the principle of a position and apply it to a counterexample. If they deny the principle for one position, it must be denied for the other.
So the example I typically use when I teach this is actually an example that I got that happened here years ago when I talked on abortion. I don't even remember what the young man's name was, but I remember it was after the cameras were rolling. And he came up to me and said, look, I agree with you that the unborn are human, they're persons, but he said, don't you know that if we don't allow women to have legal abortions, then they will harm themselves trying to seek out illegal abortions. Now, what I'm going to do is use this first way, and I'm going to remove the fluff and just reword the question. And I said something like, before I answer you, let me see if I understand you. Are you saying that if we don't allow women to legally kill their innocent unborn children in their womb, then they might harm themselves trying to illegally kill their innocent unborn children in the womb? And he said, that's a good point. I think you're right. And I said, well, I haven't made a point yet. I'm just making sure I understand your question. So I just removed the fluff. Now, in the same situation, I'm going to now reword the principle of his argument and apply it to a counterexample. What's the principle of his argument?
That we have to allow someone to harm their child so that they aren't harmed.
So that is the argument itself.
Mm-hmm.
What's the overriding principle behind it?
If people are going to do it anyway, you should let them do it.
With minimal harm, right? Yeah, pretty much. If someone's going to do something anyways, we might as well reduce the harm if they're going to do it. So his principle, again, was with respect to abortion. My counterexample, I said, well, what about burglars? I said, let me answer it this way. Suppose I showed you all the statistics of all the burglars that hurt themselves in the past 20 years when they broke into homes. 30% got bit by dogs. 25% broke their ankles when they jump over high fences. 65% cut their forearms when they break the window to open the lock of the door and break inside the house. And I said, now what if I argued that if we just made burglary legal, well, they wouldn't harm themselves trying to break into people's homes? Would you agree with the argument? His words, almost verbatim, he said no, because it harms innocent people, and that's not right.
Wow.
Now, at that point, I didn't have to say anything else. I just smiled and nodded. I said, I think you're right, and I suppose that would be my answer to your question as well. So note, the point here is that if you deny the principle for the counterexample, well, then what must you deny it for? Your own example, right. So, now, go to your Let's Practice handout. You've got 3 claims. I'll give you about 4 claims. I'll tell you what, for the sake of time, because I want to get through as many as possible. 1, 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3, 6, 9. So let's do groups of 2. There might be one group of 3. You have 4 claims here, and I want you to use this tool specifically. Can you read off the first, or just read off all 4 claims for me, please? Yes.
People should be allowed to do whatever makes them happy. Religion is dangerous because people have used it to do bad things. We all should just focus on loving each other, not on who's right or wrong. And hate is not holy.
What's the context there? The context?
Oh, context. This is posted by a progressive Christian group online in rainbow-colored font, targeting Christians who disagree with and are opposed to same-sex marriage.
Very good. So, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So I will have. So you guys can be one group. I want you to take number 1. You 2 take number 2. You 2 take number 3, and then you 2 can take number 4. I want you to implement this tool. Again, you've got a bit of a cheat sheet here. The Tactical Tools handout that lists them. Once you look over that, I'll give you about 5 minutes. Give me a response, how you respond. You can either remove the fluff. Let me go back to remove the fluff or reword the principle and apply it to a counterexample. Ready, set, go.
That's counterexample.
I guess you could also, you could say something about like, is it fully paid to everybody for the and then you just have to convince them that single parent is a valid thing.
And even there, you can say, well, it's not equal. You might have a disagreement on what's good or what leads to human flourishing. You can still have respect for what you
Yes, that's
What
the
is
implication.
Oh, and by the way, really quick, if you look under where it says claims, I am specifically asking for a few things. I want a response. How would you respond? And then I also want you to explain what the goal, point, what is the reasoning behind the response you're using? All right.
Paid is not fully rather instead of better disagreement or discussion or trying to eradicate evil things. So then, so they're saying loving others no matter what
Yeah, that's a good one there. Just let them do what they want.
yeah, I mean, we use the same
The
word
first one
for
is there to
maybe slightly more creative,
clarify the
but
context and also get rid of the
If someone is anorexic,
big fluff of
yeah, what is
happy,
that's where they
implying that it's only
they starve themselves and then they think they're fat, they go to sin, and if you just affirm them, just very productive. And then sometimes they want to fall in there.
crazy counterexample is realize that doesn't always apply.
So I think the better thing to do would be to contrast it with
Both things are just pointing out.
something else.
Yeah. If taken to its final.
Universally happy, they want to do it. It's
Take something else and maybe oppose it.
There's nothing in the statement that
but then building is like really don't completely because you could say there are some techniques for drug but that general uses
Sure.
more of
Phrase it more like.
Okay. I want to hear it. Number one, you can have one representative per group. What do y'all come up with? What response would you use here? Using this second tool, how would you respond?
We kind of had a couple different responses. One was for just rewording their position. So you're saying that people should be allowed to harm themselves or others so long as it makes them happy.
Okay. Very nice.
Or like a counterexample. So if torturing innocent people for fun makes me happy, should I be allowed to do it?
Very nice.
And purpose, that's one.
Yep.
One thought that one angle there is just appealing to their moral intuition. Generally, that's not something that people are going to disagree with if that's presented to them. They could, but at that point, they're kind of just they're affirming a position that doing harm is good. Most people are
Bonus points
sensible.
if you can identify what fallacy you're exposing. That's the fifth tool, but
There is an element of, let's see. There is a piece there that's self-defeating, because what if what makes me happy does make somebody else unhappy? And
Okay.
You've got conflicting desires there. You can't carry them both out at the same time.
okay. I'll hold off on the answer. Here's my answer. So in the workbook I'm making, I give my answers. Not that these are the right answers, but just to give you a more bigger view or broader view. So people should be allowed to do whatever that makes them happy. So should we allow someone to rob a bank if that's what makes them happy? Counterexample. This shows how their principle doesn't work universally. Remember, if they deny the principle for one area, then it should be denied for the other. Your example may be different, which it was, that's fine, but the principle of the counterexample or approach should be the same. Now, I like to kind of not swing for the fences right away and say like torturing babies for fun, but maybe something more like, like robbing a bank, it's maybe not, like almost, there might be some gray area, because then they might say, well, what if they need it to feed their family? Then I progressively go to more stuff and eventually get to torturing babies for fun. But yeah, very good. Okay, whoops. Number 2.
So the prompt was, religion is dangerous because people have used it to do bad things. I would first open with a clarifying question, asking, does that immediately invalidate the religion? Like it has no use whatsoever, like you would just say religions are horrible because people have used them to do bad things.
And what tool would that be?
Removing the fluff, I guess.
That would be the first one, but I mean, it's fine. You can combine them.
I want to clarify and make sure that they are actually saying this, like,
Sure.
and then I would follow up, if they affirm that, I would follow up saying, well, what about some other thing that has been used for bad purposes, like a car? You could run into someone with your car, but cars are pretty useful
Yeah.
in general. Would you say that we should get rid of all cars because
Right.
people have used them to kill people?
Yep. And that's doing a what? Yeah. It's a good counterexample. Very good. I said, so anything that has ever been used to do bad things must be rejected. Removing the fluff and exposing the core of the claim. Would this apply to science and medicine too? So I like to try to aim for things that I think they're going to value, especially on a college campus in today's society with scientists. Like everybody wants to uphold science. Well, has science been used to do bad things? My goodness, yes. My goodness, yes. But if they deny it for the science, what should they deny it for as well? The argument they're trying to make also. Goal point, notice how I'm not arguing against her claim. I'm just applying it to other areas they likely agree with to expose the inconsistency. This was a 1-2 punch. I mentioned this in some other place, 1-2 punch. Very good. Any other thoughts or comments on that? All right, number 3. Who had 3? You guys? Let's hear it.
So the claim is we should all just focus on loving each other, not on who is right or wrong. And the basic response is, should we then ignore when people do wrong things? Because all that matters is love.
Okay. All right. And so kind of removing the fluff there a little bit, sounds like. Anything else? No?
Wouldn't you have to establish there is a right or wrong?
You could go that route. Now, and I like where y'all are thinking. I want to hone in on being as lazy as possible to get right to the point. And these are good. I like it. I like that we're thinking through this. I said, are you implying that anyone who focuses on who's right or wrong is wrong?
I probably think you're wrong. So.
Exactly, right. And then I said, wouldn't that mean you're not focusing on love, and wouldn't that make you wrong? Using their own claim as a counterexample to itself. Goal or point, these tools overlap. Given that my response uses a claim as a counterexample to itself, it's an example of a self-defeating statement, which is number 5. If both 1 and 2 are combined, it would be a 1-2 punch. And you know what I mean by 1-2 punch, I don't need to explain that, but basically where you're setting up something. You're setting up a point with a question to kind of make your stronger point at the end. Hey, how's it going? All right, 4th one.
So the quote claim was hate is not holy, and what they're probably trying to say is hate of good things is not holy, but then they'll go into like a discussion of whether same-sex marriage is like good or not. If they're trying to say something like hate in general is not holy, then like a counterexample could be, someone's abusing drugs, harming themselves or others. Is it a bad thing to try to stop them in some way or dislike it, them using it that way.
Okay. So what would the response be?
So the response would be to ask them to try to clarify what they mean.
Okay. Now that's good to clarify. How would you implement this tool though?
Yeah, this tool would be if they said hate in general is not holy, then the counterexample would come in handy. And and it's sort of removing the fluff would just be like, it's a very like catchphrase and just saying like, it's kind of similar to number one, like should you allow people to do whatever they want.
Okay. And basically the context, what just like I said, a rainbow color font, try to paint the picture there. And this was a real example, by the way. Basically, if you disagree with same-sex marriage, you're homophobic and you're hating on gay people. Therefore, hate is not holy. So if you disagree with same-sex marriage, you're being unholy, allegedly. Response. So disagreeing with someone's views or choices is hate. Don't you disagree with my views? Does that make you hateful? That's what they're basically getting at, right? If you disagree with this person's lifestyle, then it's hateful to them. But are they not disagreeing with us who disagree with them? Do you see the point? So I'm trying to get as quickly as possible, trying to make the strongest point as possible. First, I'm removing the fluff. I'm going to reword the hate is not holy. What do they really mean by that? Essentially, if you disagree with someone's views or choices or their lifestyle, you are hating on them or you hate them. Well, then I turn the tables and use that counterexample about, well, aren't you doing the same thing? Goal point. Sometimes context helps clarify how to implement the tool. My goal point is similar to the previous. As before, this also becomes self-defeating. So we want to strip down the claim to its core and rephrase it so that its weakness or contradiction becomes clear. A lot of times people don't know they're contradicting themselves simply because the way they're using like slogans or bumper sticker phrases. And it sounds good. It's almost like Christianese, right? It sounds nice until you kind of unpack and take away the fluff from it and say, well, this is really what you're saying. And 9 times out of 10, I'd say they don't even agree with what they're actually saying. I never argue directly against their claim. I just apply and expose the inconsistency of it. So I'm not even arguing against it. I'm just saying, well, wait a minute, counterexample. Because in order to use a counterexample, you have to concede the principle for sake of argument. Make sense? So another part that makes us lazy is I'm not going to argue against it. I'm going to use it. When I wrestled in high school, my coach said, if your opponent pushes you, pull him. And if he pulls you, push him. In other words, don't fight against his momentum. Use it to your advantage. Leverage it. That's exactly the mentality I take here. Very good. All right, number 3. Any questions or comments on that? Third one. Can someone read that off, please?
Practical tool number 3, exercise rebuttals. Burden of proof. Whoever makes the claim bears the burden of proving their claim to be true. Refutation, showing their conclusion is false. Attack conclusion. Rebuttal, showing they haven't proven that their conclusion is true. Attack justification. Emphasize rebuttals over refutations. It is not your job to prove that they are wrong. It is their job to prove that they are right. Keep the ball in their court with their rebuttal. The pressure is on them, not you. Concede that their claim might be true, but show how it does not justify their position. You be lazy and let them do the work.
Now this one I think especially apologists fail to implement this. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So again, just a quick example, refutation versus rebuttal. First, I want you to learn how to break a claim, which you probably already do naturally. Break a claim into conclusion and justification. So as we just said, in a refutation, you're going to attack the conclusion to try to prove them wrong. Rebuttal, you just attack the justification. And you're not necessarily saying they're wrong. You're just showing how this doesn't prove they're right. So if I'm going to attack the conclusion, what's the conclusion here?
Because they're wearing brown shoes, it'll rain.
Well, the conclusion is just it will rain today. Yeah.
Very good. What's the justification?
Because I'm wearing brown shoes.
Good. So let's look at this. To do this, refutation, you would have to say something like, no, the atmospheric pressure, temperature, moisture, weather, yada, yada, isn't sufficient. But I doubt anyone here knows that off the top of their head. Which means this requires a lot more knowledge. By contrast, rebuttal, you don't need more knowledge. You can just say, no, not necessarily, because you wore brown shoes yesterday and it didn't rain. Now note, am I saying it's not going to rain? What am I pointing out?
Brown shoes doesn't always lead to rain.
Exactly.
No good reason to believe it's going to.
Right? Or we may even have reason not to believe it, but point being is all I'm doing is attacking their justification for their conclusion. Right? What makes this lazy is I don't have to do the hard work of knowing everything, knowing the temperature, pressure, moisture, all this stuff. I just have to pay attention to their justification. So this does not require more knowledge, it only requires knowledge of their what?
Justification?
Exactly, justification. And guess what? They give it to you in the claim they make. So all you have to do is listen. Shouldn't be too hard. So which is easier, rebuttal, what takes more work, refutation, hence the reason I call it lazy approach. Let's do this one together. God doesn't exist because evolution is true. Now pause. Conclusion is what?
God doesn't exist.
What's the justification?
Evolution is true.
All right, how would you use a rebuttal for this? What kind of rebuttal would you come up with?
God could have used an evolutionary process.
Sure.
to bring about life.
Right. Why do we not want to argue against evolution here if we're going to use this tool?
Talk about getting into the weeds with knowledge claims, and they're going to be often very convinced in evolution.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yep.
And you want them to be open to the gospel.
That's right.
You don't change their mind on that.
That's right. Main thing, the main thing. On top of that, if you were going to give a refutation, what would you have to disprove?
Evolution.
Right. Which, as Alan said, you're going to get into the weeds. You're going to waste a lot of time, in my opinion, waste a lot of time. Right. Rebuttal. But if God exists, couldn't he use evolution to bring about our species? Now, do you have to believe in evolution to use this response? That's the beauty of it. You concede for the sake of argument and say, okay, if the answer to this is yes, what's the issue? If the answer is no, why do you think that? Okay, let's go.
To defend that, like why do they think God couldn't exist?
Right.
It could be helpful to see them try to defend that proposition.
Yeah. Again, you're putting the ball back in their court, because if they make the claim, who bears the burden? Is it your job to disprove their claim? It's their job to provide reasons for their claim. Okay, we don't have to split up unless you want to do two big groups, but there's only two here. So for this one, let's take one of these conclusions. All religions are false, Christianity is false, or God doesn't exist because, in other words, that's a conclusion. Justification, because psychology explains why you believe in God. Or two, religion causes lots of wars. So practice point. Again, I gave you the conclusion. The examples are the justification. I want you to give me the following assumptions. What connection are they assuming between their conclusion and justification? Problems. What's wrong with their assumptions? Are they correct assumptions? What problematic implications would this have for their own claim, argument, or worldview? And then after you give me those two things, I want the rebuttal. How can you turn the problems above into a question that reveals the weakness or flaws in their claim or argument? What should you, keep four things in mind. Somebody back there read it for me. What four things should you keep in mind when you're doing this? Oh, sorry, three things, and I say four in there. That's a typo. Can you read the three things to keep in mind, please?
One, the two things that make Christianity true. Are these affected by their argument? If not, would that be part of your rebuttal?
And what are the two things that make Christianity true?
God exists and
Jesus rose from the dead.
Beautiful. All right, go ahead. Keep going.
I'm not looking for you to prove these claims wrong. That would be a refutation. Don't attack their conclusion, address the justification. And three, you're not trying to argue against their claim, you're using it. Does their reasoning actually justify their conclusion?
Very good. All right, do you want to do two groups? Perfect. Let's do two groups. All right. This group over here has number one, which is psychology explains why you believe in God. This side of the room has number two, religion causes lots of wars. I'll give you 3 minutes since you only have one. Go. 3 minutes and 14 seconds.
So they're specifically trying to say, because the religion causes a lot of wars, God doesn't exist, Christianity is false.
Psychology explains why you, well, their conclusion.
Say religion does cause a lot of
Yeah,
war.
well, so the conclusion, one of their
Incompatible with
conclusions, we're gonna go
Jesus
with
as
all
well.
religions is harmful. Actually,
Or
we'll go with God
God
doesn't
not,
exist
yeah.
because psychology explains why you believe in God.
So the assumption is that is that if the scientific explanation exists for both the God
Or
and
God
without
purpose.
religion, you just believe in God.
I mean, the thing to me too is like religion is such a broad term,
They're
it's
different
all
assuming that
religions.
your belief in
And then
God,
even within
that
Christianity,
God's
someone that
existence
might
depends on your
claim
belief
the name
in
of
God.
It also
Christianity.
seems
Like
that
you could believe
because
God
it
for
causes
long
a war
distance and he
false
still exist.
when
No, I don't
we
know.
prove things that have caused wars.
No,
That's a really good one.
So,
yeah, I think the assumption with Kevin, kind of with Kevin's, which is just
Do we know of any examples
science shows
of
why you
other
believe in God,
non-religious true things
thus
people fought
God
over?
can't be true.
Land boundaries?
That's not what he's
land
saying.
does not exist because land causes wars.
It was a bit more focused on.
Well, that's the claim. That's the claim they're trying to make.
Somebody's
How
right.
to-
Even
Well, not
if
repeat it.
even if that's true, couldn't God design the mind of God so that
Even if religion caused lots of wars,
Yeah.
what if the founder of the religion didn't approve of them? It could be an abuse of religion.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to say it doesn't follow.
Yeah, the answer is.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
That would be deep wrong.
Okay, so we have the connection.
that's a bit more into the weeds.
Yeah.
You prefer
Yeah,
to-
problems with an assumption.
I think
I'm not interested in whether animals can be.
How can we turn the problem to be
I think
reveals the weaknesses or flaws?
How do you know that religion was the root cause of all of the wars?
but
I think that's actually, percentage-wise,
I mean,
minority.
I still think you could like,
I think
you know,
one of the
point
problems
out
is that
different,
if you say
I mean, like,
psychology,
if you say
what you
we're,
believe in God, well, in psychology,
Some-
well,
some-
at
at
least
least
some
some
they
don't
don't believe in
either.
why they hold
Just
it.
psychology explaining everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Psychology explains something other reasons for war.
Generalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, psychology makes me think of physics,
We can just say why
which
you
makes me
think that
think that he wants to
religion causes wars is unavailable.
But if we're changing.
Why do you think
the rebuttal
Christianity
toward
is
that,
false if Jesus said, turn the other cheek, love your enemies, and
So-
pray for those who persecute you?
believing in God is a.
Why is that inspiring wars
Which has nothing to do.
in such a way that there's a possibility?
All right, time's up. If you don't have one, then congratulations are going to hell because you can. All right, psychology explains why you believe in God. What do y'all have? Anybody?
Well, this assumes that if there is a psychological explanation for your belief, then your belief must be false.
Anybody know the fallacy?
Isn't that belief explained by? Well, maybe,
It could be self-defeating. Is that?
it's
But
not necessarily self-defeating. Maybe
Is
not.
it non sequitur?
I believe,
Sort of the
I
genetic
believe,
fallacy.
that it is.
I believe it is, I don't see a way through psychology to faith in God.
Okay. So, and I forgot to mention the last one. The last one we were doing, we were essentially with counterexamples. It's you're given a type of reductio ad absurdum. You're showing how their view reduces to absurdity. Here, yes, I would say non sequitur. It can be self-defeating. I'm thinking more specifically genetic fallacy. If I can explain where it comes from, therefore false. All right, continue.
And so, yes, a problem with the assumption is that there's all manner of things that we might innately believe, and where there's a psychological basis for those beliefs. Would all of those also be false? Just a rebuttal that you could give would just be to ask. Does having a psychological explanation for my belief make it false for any belief?
Sure.
Could you say is psychology all encompassing? Does it include all knowledge?
Okay.
How do you really know that? And does it, I mean, all people in the whole world, every single person?
Yeah, I know. That is a big. All right, so how would you apply the rebuttal? Oh, wait, we're on rebuttal.
Yeah.
Yep. What's the response? Okay, say it again.
Sorry, I'm having trouble finding words for a second. Hold on.
And it was basically, does psychology explaining that you believe something make that belief false?
That's right. Okay, very good. Okay, so assumptions, it seems to be an underlying assumption of naturalism via reductionism. It would seem that they would say something like, belief in God is nothing but X or Y. They also seem to be assuming some type of scientism, assuming that science can explain religious beliefs, which is also reductionistic. They're assuming that if psychology can explain belief in God, then it somehow falsifies the possibility of any belief, religion being true. Problems is that even if psychology can explain belief in God, it wouldn't prove there is no God or that any religion is false. Moreover, this could also apply to their disbelief, as you were pointing out earlier. Very good. Here's a few. Even if it's true that psychology can explain why I believe in God, I don't see how this would prove that God doesn't exist or that all religions are false. Can you explain why you think this would demonstrate that there is no God or that all religions are false? 2, when does this apply to your atheism as well? Would this prove that, therefore, atheism is false? So notice how I'm asking a question. I'm using a counterexample. This is self-defeating and a reductio ad absurdum. I didn't ask you to do that part. Okay, very good. Over here. Any other thoughts on that, by the way?
Yeah, quick question.
Yes.
Today was evangelism 2?
Yes.
Part 2.
Part 2. I'm very confused.
Well, it's all right. You probably because you missed evangelism 1. So on the last week, we went over what the gospel is in 4 parts. What would you say the gospel is in 4 parts? What are 4 aspects, essential aspects of the gospel?
Well, gospel to me is the good news, and evangelism is being able to share the gospel as I would say, as simple and friendly and gentle as it is. And we're talking about psychology, so I'm just,
We're only bringing it up psychology because we're trying to respond to a question of some potential person we're trying to witness to who's sidetracking us from the gospel. And it's like, well, what are some ways of kind of moving past that to get them back to the gospel?
Right. So, and I believe these are.
deep.
Well, I think you have to
A
be.
little way too deep, right? We don't want to psychology people, right? We want to go from the heart.
I don't want to go from the heart. I want to do what Scripture teaches. I want to do what Paul and Jesus did. I want to love God with all my mind, as the greatest commandment suggests.
Paul bash people with psychology?
Yes. But aside from that, I note we're responding to people who may have objections. So let's say you wanted to share the gospel with me and aim at my heart, and you're sharing the gospel, and I'm like, look, what's your name?
Carlos.
Carlos. I say, look, Carlos, it's great that you're a Christian. I just think all religions are false because psychology can clearly explain why we believe what we do.
Glazed over how it's great that I'm a Christian.
Right. I'm playing a non-believer. That's what I would do.
I'm sorry?
I'm playing a non-believer. That's what I would do. If we're going to witness to non-believers, they're not just going to assume our worldview is true. They're going to have some pushback or objections or questions. We're showing how to. So last week we talked about the 4 elements of the gospel was creation, fall, redemption, and restoration. How to share that, what Bible verses for that. We spent like half the time at least most of the time going over that. Now we're looking at when we're talking with people, how do we get into a conversation and maneuver it so we don't get sidetracks on these side issues like psychology, so we can get back to the gospel and stick to the main thing.
Yeah, we don't really want to talk about psychology, and Eric's trying to give a strategy where you don't have to refute. You're just trying to show that they haven't made their claim against Christianity by bringing up psychology.
Yeah, but Corinthians says, be ready to give a defense
Yes.
for your hope with gentleness and respect. And I don't think bashing them with psychology falls within that.
Right. Yeah, and we don't want to bash them with psychology and gentleness and
I mean, not everybody is studious with psychologists, so I just think that that doesn't fall within gentleness and respect.
well, I mean, if I would point you to Jesus and Paul, where Paul said he wished people would castrate themselves and chop off their penises if they wanted to go with.
Paul said that?
Yes, he did.
No, he absolutely said that.
In Galatians, yeah.
Yeah.
He said that.
It's in the Bible, yeah.
No, he said that. He said that circumcision is no longer.
And he says those who want to follow that, I wish they would just go ahead and cut the whole thing off, is what Paul said.
He was going against the legalists.
Where is that in the scripture?
Galatians, I believe it's 1:6. If someone wants to look it up, but
Maybe later in
basically, yeah, what we're getting at is when people are going to bring up objections or try to get us off or sidetrack us on different issues. I'm trying to show you.
The response to that is psychology?
No, I'm saying if someone brings up psychology. So let's say you're, let's do 1 minute.
We're
Sure.
not trying to bash anybody, to be clear
Right.
as well. There's
Yes.
no intent to,
Well,
the
sorry,
intent is to do
that might have
justice.
been the wrong way of saying it, but, okay, carry on, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So like in other words, if you were sharing the gospel,
You said Galatians 6?
I believe it's 1:6. So I'll have to, let's see. Okay, no, Galatians 5:12. So, in other words, if you're sharing the gospel with someone and they bring up something like that, how would you respond is a question. I don't know if you ever encountered that before, Carlos, or not, where people bring up.
No, I have.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I'm trying to show you how to not get sidetracked on these things.
We don't really want to be talking about psychology, and that is
Yeah.
the whole point.
You said 1, 5,
5:12.
5:12.
5.
All right. Religion causes lots of wars over here. What do y'all got?
So we have a lot of things. One of which is that they're assuming that there's an incompatibility. So we can just say like, say religion causes a lot of wars. Does that prove that the religion is false in the first place? Or you could say many other things like, could there be ample reasons for wars to exist or to be permitted, things like that. But sort of.
And I think you're on the right track.
One way to phrase it that I suggested was maybe pointing to Jesus and his quotes about turn the other cheek, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. Does this seem to be the kind of thing that inspires war? Can you really say Christianity is false when its leaders seem to be promoting love and peace?
Actually, in 5:12, he says, expression of wish, the false teachers demanding circumcisions would go beyond circumcision and emasculate themselves.
Yes.
So he's talking about false teachers.
Right. What is he asking them to do? To cut off their penises.
Yeah, them,
Right.
the false teachers.
Right. Yes. Correct.
Eric's just saying sometimes there are harsh
Not
elements.
the people.
Yeah.
Well, the false
Yeah,
teachers
not-
were people.
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, Paul.
So not the people.
Well, the people, the false teachers are people.
are also-
Yeah. So in other words, Paul's not shy. Doesn't shy away from using harsh language and getting bold when needed.
But he's telling the false teachers to do it.
Yeah. So should we go tell people to chop off their penises if they're false teachers?
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, hey. All right. Well, then you're gonna love the lazy approach.
It'd be worse.
All right.
Okay, there you
All right.
go.
So yeah. So I can see where you're going. So focusing on the rebuttal aspect, though, and also to what you're. Remind me your name again. I'm sorry. Robert. So you were kind of presenting it more like a question of, well, do you think this is true? Now you also have to keep in mind most people aren't going to track, so you almost have to hold them by the hand and walk them through what's wrong with their claim. So you're on the right track, but I would do it something like this. Wait a minute. So are you, or tell me how you would respond again? How was it?
Say religion does cause a lot of wars. Does that mean that the religion is false?
Right. So I would start with like a. So are you saying that? That way they have to say yes or no, because again they might not make the connection that you're using their claim and you're asking a question about it. So I might say, so wait a minute, are you saying that if it causes wars, therefore it's false? And if they say yes and they still don't get it, it's going over their head, then I will bring up, okay, has fill in the blank of something they might like. Has the abolition of slavery caused war?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
Did it cause war, yes or no?
it did.
So should we have avoided the abolition? Now that's a counterexample and a rebuttal implicitly. You get what I'm saying? Very good. All right. Anything else? Here is, okay. I've got a few different types of responses. So problems is that assumptions. For religion to be true, it mustn't cause wars. I put a question mark because I don't know. Is that what you're saying? The behavior of religions disproves the truth of all religions. Problems is that behavior doesn't prove truth, and when it comes to Christianity, an unjust war would be acting in disobedience to Christ's teachings, not in line with Christianity, which is what Alan was getting at. Rebuttal. Sure, many religions have caused wars. Note how I'm conceding, not arguing against it. If I were arguing against this, what would I be doing? A rebuttal or refutation? Right. So we want to focus on rebuttals. But, 1, how would this prove Christianity is false? 2, could a religion cause a war but still be true? 3, so are you saying that if religions didn't cause wars, that would make them true? Well, now I'm using a counterexample. Because by their own logic, if it causes war, it's false. Well, what if there's a religion that never has caused a war? Does that therefore make it true? That doesn't sound right. 4, are you saying that if religion didn't cause wars, you become a Christian? I highly doubt. In other words, I'm really trying to get at the heart of the issue. What's really going on here? Counterexample, possibly reductio ad absurdum, depending on their answer. 5, if atheism causes or has ever caused war, would that make it false too? Have atheistic regimes caused war? I'm just trying to apply the consistency. And this is what also be a counterexample as well. We can skip the explanation, but basically I'm not trying to refute. I'm just trying to address the justification. In Scripture, God is not opposed to justifiable wars. So given that I'm conceding their justifications, I'm showing the inconsistency or flaw in their reasoning. That behavior the flaw in the reasoning that behaviors make something true or false. Okay. All right, let's go to number 4. All right, number 4. So I will let you read, a few things with this. So this is the laziest of all of them, because basically what you're doing is you're not trying to even respond. I'm going to set the slides aside just for the sake of time. In this instance, sometimes people don't give you an argument or an objection or an actual rebuttal refutation to what you're saying. Sometimes they're just asserting a claim without evidence, or even just passionately expressing their emotions about your view. In this instance, you don't have to give a refutation, much less a rebuttal, but you can respond in a way that kind of makes the point that you're not giving me anything to work with. So as before, you want to keep in mind the 2 things that make Christianity true: burden of proof principle. Are they making an argument or are they making an assertion? Uncomfortably brief responses. So actually I fibbed earlier. I do want to touch on the slides briefly. I had someone once tell me my biggest obstacle to belief in God is the existence of evil. Now, how might you respond out of curiosity?
Why?
Does the existence of God predispose that there's no existence of evil?
Okay. Now this is, like I said, my laziest tool. I want to use as little breath as possible. Now I'm going to use a little bit more breath because I skipped over the easy examples like Christians are hypocrites. How would you respond to that? I would just say, go on.
Yeah, there's no argument there.
And I would just sit patiently and just stare. I want fruitful, awkward silence. I think awkward silence can be very fruitful. Christians are hypocrites. Sure. Some atheists are hypocrites too. What's your point? I'm not arguing against. And we know it's not an argument. Why? Because with this claim, there's no justification, really not even really conclusion. It's just an assertion. All right. So in this instance, the person said, biggest obstacle is the existence of evil. I said, explain. He said, well, if God exists, there shouldn't be evil. Why? Because God's all loving. Yes. And he wouldn't want evil. Why not? Well, because he's all loving. Go on. Now, no, he hasn't made an argument yet. Now, can I guess what argument he's making? Yeah. I wrote two whole chapters on morality and then evil in and of itself and how that points to God. But what did he tell me up front? It's on the screen.
Yeah, that is his biggest obstacle.
It's his biggest obstacle. And I said, look, I'm not trying, and I think I know what you're trying to say, but in order for me to take it seriously, I want to know where you think the objection or the problem or contradiction lies, because so far you're just repeating your assertion. It's like saying grass is green, therefore the sky shouldn't be blue. Why not? Well, because grass is green, yeah, and the sky's blue, and it shouldn't be that way. Yeah, but why? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Make sense? Okay. With this in mind, Here's what I want. I just want, give me a lazy response, a little less lazy. You can use maybe 1 or 2 sentences, and a little bit more work, 3 sentences at most. Let's split up again. We'll do this front, one group, second group, third group. Psychology explains why you believe in God. Note, we're repeating. 2, religion causes lots of wars. And 3, people have done so much evil in the name of religion. So you have 1, 2, and 3. Go. I'll give you 2 minutes this time and 36 seconds, since this is a really short response.
The first one, okay,
I
and
like this.
Yeah.
I may have found a page. I'll get it.
What word would you
yeah,
like to use?
mine is just, okay, and
How? Oh, wait, which one is it?
right there.
Yeah, you just want to get done with
Well,
like
good
why.
question. It's just the thing.
To say like, okay.
Yeah, it's just the thing I was doing. So the way you put it a couple of times, less lazy.
So I guess
It's the one
becoming less lazy
I'm trying to.
because you put it with people doing evil in the name of religion
Maybe
get
less
false,
lazy would be.
you know,
Page 3 and
say
4.
what do you believe in?
Yes, it's
So
like,
you
yeah.
could just do people
So, or,
subjective evil, make that false.
Oh, is that the
Yeah,
only
I think
people do
I want them
evil
to,
in the name of?
so.
I want to know what the
Just 'cause that
connection
makes
is
sense.
between
Does this,
religion
Yeah.
or to the existence of God.
so,
What about politics?
Or I guess in the case of
And then just try to end that with the question of, like, does somebody take something into
why
account?
don't we not? Okay,
Just like, if somebody does something evil in the name of whatever,
Yeah.
say politics,
Yeah.
like, does that mean that it?
I guess the question would be,
The political theories.
Yeah, because
so what does
everyone-
psychology explaining,
what does
God,
religion causing wars have to do with anything?
Politicians do
or like, what does it,
do bad things.
like, what is the, or like we do like, okay, and then it goes into, well, science,
Okay, and then the goal or
Like-
point.
I think
What
like
psychology
these
explains.
are just
Does this change
claims
whether
or like statements.
Yeah.
This one
Yeah,
is
that one, yeah, there we go,
just
that's what I was
statement.
trying to get
Pretty
at.
bad claim.
Does this change?
Religion causes lots of things.
Diagnosis.
Yes, does this,
Yeah.
and then a little more work, to
They
three
have
sentences,
things that we need to
then you'll have
Maybe
that.
you'd say, here's how you can make your claim stronger. Just feel my
Yeah, there you go.
if they do it
Like
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotten so much worse. What are you gonna hate it?
Same, bro.
Then after that you can try and
All right, let's see what happens. I hope someone's response is, well, go emasculate yourself. All right, over here, what do we got?
So for the first one, which is psychology explains why you believe in God, laziest is so.
Yeah? All right, go on.
And then the less lazy one is,
Does that change whether God exists?
Good. Yeah.
we didn't even get to a little more work.
Too lazy. Yeah, I like it. Nice. Very good. Back here. You had religion causes lots of wars.
we came up with yes and.
Yeah.
Very,
Just agreeing with them.
they're making a statement, not a claim.
Yep. What about the other two? Did you get that far?
The second one, I thought of, what does that say about the existence of God or the truth of religion?
Okay.
And it
How is that
comes
relevant?
to
Yep.
Some kind of claim that I can't address.
Mm-hmm. Do you get a third one?
No.
All right. Lots of laziness in here. All right, over here. What y'all got? People have done so much evil in the name of religion.
We got like, okay, go on. What was the thing that you said?
Well, that was an actual response.
Oh, things like, does that make, or are there not other things that people have done evil in the name of? We brought up like politics as an example.
Okay. Right, so counterexample. Good. All right. Here are mine. Psychology explains why you believe in God. Sweet. Less lazy, cool, but wouldn't that apply to your beliefs as well? A little more work? Maybe, but I'm not sure how this would prove there is no God. Uncomfortable silence, show how the claim would equally apply to their position, show how it's not relevant to God's existence. Religion causes lots of wars. Yep. Less lazy. Yep, lots of them, but how would this make Christianity false? I agree, but when people engage in unjust wars, are they aligning with Jesus' teaching or going against them? This is what Alan was getting at earlier in the previous one. Okay, people have done so much evil in the name of religion. Go on. I agree. Therefore what? So this would also be a non sequitur. Most of the time, these are non sequiturs. And you can use two words. Therefore what? Psychology explains why you believe in God. Cool. Therefore, and just stay silent. Uncomfortable silence. I know, it's terrible. Thankfully, Jesus didn't teach that. No, again, I'm not arguing against. I'm not even disagreeing. I'm just implicitly pointing out this is not relevant to anything that makes Christianity true. What are the two things that make Christianity true?
God exists, Jesus rose from the dead.
Boom. That's what you want to stick with. Yeah, find points to consider. You might want to set it up. All right, let's do the fifth and last one. I have one last handout. Can you pass these out, please? So this one I have a whole chapter on. I just want to focus on one or two at the time we have, because I think this is going to be really important. And you have a handout. So even if you don't have the book, you have that there that gives a whole list of the fallacies. I would highly, highly encourage you to look over. In fact, I mean, I don't want to give you guys homework. Well, I kind of do, but it's not going to be mandatory, so to speak. But I would encourage you to go on YouTube, find a debate or a discussion. A great YouTube channel for that is Eric Hernandez. Shameless plug there. And I want you to pull this out, and I want you to try to find out how many fallacies were committed and by who. Hopefully, I didn't commit any. But seriously, I want you to get to the point to where you're so familiar with these that it becomes second nature to identify them. Because when you learn how to identify fallacies, you can easily learn which of these tools to apply, very, very quickly. We saw how, y'all have seen because I've done the atheist role play a number of times, and I've done the lazy approach at least once, I think at least once. You remember how Jesus engaged with the Sadducees, right? Very philosophical, very apologetic in analyzing the fallacies. When you encounter this out there, here's where I know, Carlos was saying earlier about how, we don't want to go too deep. I think sometimes we have to, and it's okay if we disagree. But I love what Scripture says. So when it's referring to sin, it says, before you take out the speck of dust in someone else's eye, what do you want to do? Right. Now apply that to logical thinking. Before you try to correct someone else's logical fallacies, take out the logical fallacy plank in your eye. We want to be sure that we're avoiding these as well, but you also want to know how to detect them, because if someone does not want to accept the gospel, come to the foot of the cross, there's a reason, there's an objection, there's an argument, even if it's emotional, what we want to do is point out how this is not a good reason to accept the God who loves you. And sometimes before a seed can take root and grow, sometimes you have to cultivate the soil. This is part of evangelism. Some people call it pre-evangelism. But as we saw last week, before there can be a harvest, there needs to be what?
Soil. Good soil.
And
Gardening.
gardening. Very good. Harvesters, gardeners. Can you expect to, all things being equal, can you expect to reap a harvest of fruit where no one has sown seed? What does Scripture say about throwing seed in not good soil or rocky soil?
It's taken away.
Yep, doesn't take root, gets taken away, gets choked up. So what might you have to do with the soil before you even throw seed? Till. Remove the rocks. Remove the things that are going to choke it. This is what we're looking at here for today, focusing on this aspect. And like I said, I don't know if you saw the last week's recording, Alan, but there was some other stuff I had planned on doing, but I wanted to focus just on this and still go out, because I would love to ongoingly kind of come in, focus on a different aspect, and then go out and do it again. So with this, and I started with this because you guys are a little bit sharper than, I would say, most groups. Not that much, but a little bit. In that most of you probably know at least an argument or two for God's existence. You're familiar with some apologetics. I say that to say, I think here's where a lot of the work starts to happen in, okay, not just that you know the arguments, but that you know how to navigate a conversation. This is why, who recalls my response to the young lady? And Carlos, I'd be curious how you would answer. Let's say if you're talking to someone, since you're our guest here, if you're talking to someone and sharing the gospel and they say they're atheist, and you, okay, well I'm saying like you weren't here last week. My apologies.
Sure.
My apologies. If
I'm here in spirit when I'm not.
I appreciate that.
Understood. I'm glad you're here.
So like if someone says they're atheist, they don't want to accept the gospel because the Bible is full of contradictions, what would your response or reaction be to that?
Well, I'd meet them, if I know them, I'd meet them where, I'd meet them in the most, how can I say this? I'd meet them in topics that they've shared with me that most bridges, with scripture that they can most relate. And it's very interesting that you bring this up, because just yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine that happened to be in a class at Brook Harvard. That's Brookhaven. We made shirts that said Brook Harvard. And it just so happens that he was in my statistics class, just in the front row in statistics at UNT. And he's been hitting me up. He's a flat earther.
Mm.
Oh, well.
Yeah. And he was hitting me up about flat earth the other day. And long story short, flat earthers will just use patchworks. And then there was something about him plucking the firmament as an excuse. And I've known him to never confess faith in God or Christ. And we went back and forth, and I hit him with the most solid, arguments. I just asked him if he knew Eratosthenes. And if y'all don't know, he has a very solid experiment in the south of Egypt and also in Alexandria. And he's like, you know what? Forget it. Never brought it up. And I'm like, so you do know him. And at the very end, I brought up always be ready
To give an answer.
to give a defense for the hope that is in you.
And out of curiosity for the sake of time, so like we're thinking someone who, like, and you did say he didn't profess faith in Christ. What I did in that situation, the young lady said she was an atheist because the Bible was full of contradictions. I just asked her a question. I said, if God existed, did he exist before the Bible was written? Reason being is because if the answer is yes, which it is, if he exists, then a Bible full of contradictions doesn't disprove God's existence or make him disappear. So that would have been a non sequitur, yes.
I was talking to a high school student the other day, and he's a atheist. I don't think he's a true atheist. But I said, this building that you're in, do you think it just came into being? Well, no, it had a builder, had an architect, had a designer, all that stuff. We'll look out in nature. Do you think that all this came, like a building implies builder?
Yes.
Nature implies a designer.
And if I had my atheist glasses on playing Eric Hernandez, I would say, well, you're begging the question that this was designed to begin with. And then I would push back in that way because, but I get what you're saying, but I also know at this point you're making an argument. So far, there's no, at least with my tools, there's no argument making yet. We want to first kind of crack the walls down, if you will, with the lazy approach to kind of pull their defenses down, because most of the time people won't even consider an alternative view unless they think that there's problems with theirs. If they think theirs is flawless, they don't need to look any further. If you can learn how to poke holes and navigate the conversation and say, yep, this has some flaws, either you or the next person God sends can now take that next step a little bit deeper. In fact, I saw this in real time many times. One time, really quick, in Utah, spent about 45 minutes talking with a young man who was a Mormon, was actually studying philosophy. First 45 minutes, it was just kind of poking holes in Mormonism, then sharing a little bit about the nature of the biblical God. Then he's like, I have to go to class. I was like, cool, no problem. He goes to class, and I'm with the Maven group. About an hour and a half later, he comes back, and I'm still sitting there because, my group's still out there in the conversations. He walks by, he's like, hey, Eric, and then he stops and turns around and says, can I ask you one more question? I said, sure. He said, let's suppose you're right about all this. If you're right, I'm not saying you are, but if you were, what would you recommend I do next?
Well,
Hey, there you
I said, how much time do you have? So now that happened pretty quickly. It doesn't always happen that quickly, but point being is you want to kind of till the soil, plant the seed. Maybe someone waters it. Maybe you just till the soil. Maybe you just remove rocks. Then you pray that God send other people. All right, for this last one, I will let you on your own time look over all of these. I just want to focus on one because I think it's one of the most important when it comes to evangelism that most people miss. And it's not self-defeating. It's not, is that true if they say there's no truth? Those are good and all. But when it comes to objections specifically, you can look over the things to keep in mind. Oh, no, there's no things to keep in mind here. All right, again, we're going to do 3 groups. We'll do Carlos and these 3, one group. Or no, you 3 back there, one group. You 3 up here, one group. Same group here. So here are the 3. If God exists, why doesn't he heal amputees? Back there, if Christianity is true, why did this person die of cancer? 3, if God exists, why doesn't he remove all the evil in the world? All right, I'll give you 3 minutes and 27 seconds. Go. And you can just give me the response if you want.
So God not using evil doesn't exist.
Why, since it's implying evil, that he's saying that evil is implied.
Yeah.
Oh, and what fallacy are we focusing on?
Straw man.
Very good. That should give you a hint.
Oh, like all these are straw man?
I mean, there's multiple fallacies in these, but the one I want to focus on is straw man. So look at the last 2 practice points. What's the question, begging assumption? How would you respond? Yeah, there's a lot of fallacies in this. I want to focus on straw man. You'll see why.
Basically, it's like saying somebody believes something they don't, but then add it.
In fact, I'm really curious. Did y'all see these as straw men when you first read it?
Not immediately obvious, no.
Great. That's why I'm focusing on it. Because a lot of people miss this. These are implicitly straw men. Oh yeah, let's pause right here. Do y'all know what a straw man is? My fault. What is a straw man?
Misrepresentation of a person's argument.
Yep, very good. I should put these in alphabetical order. So straw man is on page 2, number 13. Yep, misrepresentation of person's position or argument. Now, this isn't always intentional. Sometimes people will straw man your position unintentionally, but it's still a straw man. All right, go ahead. Very good. Very good. Very good.
so I'd be very tempted to want to do a refutation, so.
Go to the other.
Nobody ever dying of cancer,
So, I guess it's misrepresenting the Christian view that evil is inherently bad.
yeah.
Or that I mean, it kind of is like, yeah, like evil can.
But God wants to allow you to have free will, because you can't have that without love, and then once you have free will, you're gonna have some evil. And so, it's a straw man in the sense that Christianity never says that we're gonna be evil in the world. It's the opposite. It says that each of us has evil inside of us, and
Yeah.
then it's also something that will be removed eventually. It's a matter of timing, in some sense.
You can make it like evil in a temporal sense, existing at some point ever still have the eternal effect somehow, but yeah.
If you want to have love,
Believe
loving
that
relationship,
no one
you
should
have to
die.
have free will. And then once you have free will, Yeah, I think it's atheism, when it says there is no evil, in the sense of there's no standard for
So it's only the only thing that term would be true.
it does, yeah.
But
But it's,
yeah, if someone were to say, "Oh, I'm an atheist, but I still believe in evil," then you go,
Christianity says
go
this,
in
like,
on it.
that's not what Christianity says.
Exactly.
That's the biggest.
All right. I don't know, and I skipped this. I don't know if y'all read it, but right under the examples, Eric, I'm talking to myself, third person, points out how each of these contains question-begging assumptions about God or Christianity. Moreover, notice how these are implicit arguments disguised as questions. For example, the question, if God exists, why doesn't he heal amputees, can be reframed into the argument, God doesn't exist because amputees exist. Okay, note how turning the question into an argument helps you clearly identify the straw man and question-begging assumption and gives you the necessary framework to craft a response for exposing the problem. All right, so number one, what do you got? That's all right. Would you like a notepad for next time?
I wrote down the nature of the fallacy.
Yeah, so it was implying that, kind of implying that God loves everyone, thus he would heal everyone if he existed. Well, kind of.
Yeah, it's assuming that the kind of God that we are proposing is a God who would heal all ailments immediately.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, ask yourself this question. Does Christianity teach that?
No, it doesn't.
Hence, it's a straw man.
Mhm.
All right, how would you respond?
Christianity doesn't teach that God consistently heals all
Use a
ailments.
question.
Oh, okay, use a question. Okay.
And then so look at the response. Use a question to expose our false presupposition. You may, okay, no, that's, all right, yeah, use a question.
Does the existence of amputees
Meaning that God doesn't exist? Or
Or could there not exist a reason that a loving God would allow amputees?
We're never giving it into theodicies. Think even later than that. Use a question that starts like this. Hey, real quick, before I respond, are you saying that? Are you assuming that? I'm sorry, but are you under the assumption that? Then throw out the question. We want them to come to this conclusion on their own, and you just kind of help guide them.
fair enough.
You just kind of walk them to the edge and you push them off the nose. You want to kind of guide them through what, okay, very good. Anything else on that? Here's, let me show you mine. I'll go one by one. Conclusion, God doesn't exist because amputees exist. The question begging assumption that if God exists and is all powerful and all loving, then he must heal everyone. Are you assuming that the truth of Christianity depends entirely on whether people are healed? Can you show me where you see this taught in Scripture? Genuine question. Now, they don't have to be Christians to show this. Let's say you're talking to, I used to be a Christian, but I, left the faith when I found out that there are people dying, people, amputees in this part of the world. I'm sorry, were you taught that according to Christianity, there will be no amputees? Or am I missing something? I'm sorry, where did you see that? Man, your youth pastor was really sucking. but quite frankly, I say that jokingly, but yeah, I'll leave it there. All right, go ahead.
All right, question 2. If Christianity is true, why did this person die of cancer? It's very similar to the previous question in that it's like Christianity can't be true because people die of cancer, and that's incoherent. And the assumption would be that,
How is it incoherent?
well,
I agree with you, but yeah.
that Christians say that no one can die of cancer. That's a tenet of Christianity. Thus, when people die of cancer, it disproves Christianity.
Right, so we always ask, is this what I believe? Does Christianity teach this? Did Jesus teach this? And if the answer is no, straw man. Make sense? And this is what I want you to, before your apologist mind starts trying to think of a brilliant refutation, first think rebuttal, but even before rebuttal, think, wait a minute, do I have to defend a claim that I don't even believe? Because quite frankly, I see a lot of people, especially apologists, defending claims Christianity doesn't make. And that is way not a lazy approach. So like, yeah, and I've had people ask, well, why are they amputees? I'm sorry, are you assuming there wouldn't be? Well, if God's all loving, this and this, right? But let's go back to, yes, he's all loving, amputees exist. Where's the contradiction? I'm sorry, did I miss something here? Lazy approach. I want them to think, and I want it to dawn on them that, no one's ever challenged the assumption of my argument, and this was really awkward for me. Because usually, at this point, 2 minutes in, we're already arguing about A, B, or C. Very good. Yeah, continue, I'm sorry.
I mean, that was most of it.
Okay, no, it's good. Christianity is false because someone now, well, let me finish. Okay, that if Christianity were true, no one would die of sickness or disease. Are you under the impression that if Christianity were true, no follower of Christ would ever die of cancer? Are you aware of the fact that Christianity actually predicts and tells us to expect that people will die of sickness or disease? Are you aware that, according to Christianity, our final hope isn't in this life but the next? Now I'm segueing into the gospel, based on what they said. What are we promised according to the gospel? Health, wealth, and happiness. What are we promised? Eternal life. When do we get that?
After we die.
So what's the problem? I'm sorry, are you under the impression that the gospel means you don't die on this side of heaven from sickness or disease? Does Christianity teach that? No. So again, I cannot overemphasize, do not argue against claims you don't hold to. And help them understand. I'm sorry, are you under the impression? On top, now as a side note, this is what I was getting to. If they say if Christianity is true, then why did, and if they say my fill in the blank die of cancer, brother, father, mother, son, daughter, then we don't immediately want to go into arguing with them. Hey, I'm so sorry. And listen. Like take off the apologist hat, put on the pastoral ear listening hat. And just kind of sit with them. Yeah, that sucks. Like don't give it the Odyssey. Don't, well, hey, God has a reason. They don't promise you they don't want to hear that. That's the worst time. In fact, interestingly, the best time, and then I got to wrap up. The best time for someone to learn about theodicies is actually about 6 months before the suffering happens, not after. Sure, better late than never, but in the moment, not the time. Best time, 6 months prior. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Last one. If God exists, why doesn't he remove all the evil in the world?
So you could say God doesn't exist because he hasn't removed all the evil in the world.
Yeah, right.
And so the connection is that you assume that God would remove all the evil in the world, and his ability to do otherwise would mean that he wouldn't be existing.
Okay.
And so you could say, you ask them, so are you saying that if God exists, there would be no evil in the world at all?
Right.
You could go into the free will. Or
Sure. Yeah, now that could be the second
Bible
step.
says we have evil in every one of us. It's not-
Yeah.
It's a straw man.
Right.
Discussion on free will isn't too lazy then.
That's true.
Well, that could be the second part you go to, but the first thing you want to do is point out, okay, are you assuming that there would be no evil? Are you aware that, like what Alan said, well, there's, like the heart is evil, and you have a heart, right? I do too, right? So, but yeah, and then maybe later we can go to that, but I would stick to the lazy part, help them realize, oh wow, this is really a terrible objection.
This could be a good segue to the gospel. Like,
Oh,
God has a plan for dealing with evil.
Yes,
Let me share it with you.
exactly. And that's what I love about these straw men, is not only can you correct their bad theology, you can segue into gospel conversation. So that's the beauty of this. Gospel conversations don't have to be, hey, my name's Eric, can I share the gospel with you? It could be like what we'll do with the surveys. We're going to, hey, I have an assignment for a class. Can you help me complete this project? I'm giving you the project. I'm your teacher, if you will. So we're not lying. And then as you ask these things, do you believe in God or higher power? Yes or no? No. Why not? Well, I just think if Christianity were true, no one would die of cancer. Makes
Are you
sense.
able to come next Tuesday at that
I,
time?
I, I, Let me check. If
Probably should have checked with you.
it's all right now.
Then again, we will go out anyway, and then hopefully go with you later.
Oh, what time?
5:45.
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah, I have something in the morning, afternoon, but I think so. You said 5:45?
Yeah,
Okay. Let me just write that down really quick.
by that plan, fountains, student-
Could you later text me?
Sure.
All right, last one. Did we finish it? Or did you finish it up? Wrap it
Pretty
up.
much, given the time.
Okay, yeah. All right, so basically, are you assuming that a field exists, which is actually predicted and fully consistent with Christianity, somehow disproves it? I can send this to you later. Shoot me an email. You go on my website, you can shoot me an email from there. So, last thing I'll say as I'm wrapping this up, because time went really fast. All of these things, evil, amputees, cancer, is this consistent with and predicted by Christianity, yes or no? Yes. Here's what tickles me pink. And I like to point this out in a rather blunt way, but I mean, I think it's still respectful, but it's very blunt. I would say, how can something that is both consistent with and predicted by a worldview be used as an argument against it? I mean, literally, Christianity, Jesus, he's like, hey, expect evil, expect suffering, expect pain. And guess what? We look in the world and what do we see? Evil, suffering, pain. Oh, therefore it's false. Time out. Let's rewind that. Run that back for me. How does that work? How is something that is, again, consistent with and predicted by Christianity, how can that be used as an argument against it? Be lazy. Father, thank you so much, Lord, for these students. I pray that they would kind of just continue to glean over this material. You would equip them, prepare them, Lord, convict them, let them have a heart for the lost, that we're not just trying to win arguments, but trying to win souls, trying to tear down strongholds, plant seeds, pull weeds for your honor, your glory, and your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm excited about next week.